Begin tonight with the White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany. Kayleigh, thank you very much. Good to see you tonight.
Good to join you, Martha.
We heard a little bit of the president's, great to have you. We heard a little bit of the president's reaction. You know, one of the big themes throughout the course of this week was that the president is unfit, many of the speakers said, and they said that he is not up to the job. We heard that from Michelle Obama, and a lot last night about leaving the darkness behind and going to a place that is lighter. What is the White House response to all of that?
Yeah, that could not be more off base. I'm with the president in the Oval Office as he makes decisions in real time. And I can tell you this, he has one singular priority, and it is not the politicians that operate in this town. It is the American people. I've seen him make decisions on COVID, on the economy, and what he has done each and every day is say, I don't care what the politicians are saying. I don't care what the establishment is saying. I'm working for the American people on a V-shaped recovery, on a vaccine by the end of the year. It will be the fastest pace for a vaccine for a novel pathogen in history. That is his priority, and it's entirely off base, the things you heard this week. And I think next week you'll hear an entirely different story.
You know, what about, I think almost every single speaker that we heard from said that Joe Biden was a decent, good man. This was one of the major themes that we heard. The suggestion being that President Trump is not those things. They obviously have very different styles, and the president has said many times, you know, if you don't like my tone, there's not much I can do about that. Does he try to counteract that in any way? Does he try to show himself in a different light at this convention or not?
Well, here's the thing you get with President Trump. You get authenticity. And look, I've watched him interact with parents who have lost their children because of crime on the streets. And I've watched him interact with families who lost their children to police brutality. We think most police are great, hardworking men and women in this country, but I've seen him on both sides of the issue, and I've watched him express empathy and come out of that room and be very affected by it. But I've also seen this, and it's something you don't always see from presidents. A president who looks the American people in the eye and says, I'll stand up to Iran, I'll stand up to dictatorships, I will fight for America first on the world stage. And I've watched him sit across from foreign leaders and not be afraid to say, how does this help America? How does this put the United States man and woman first? He's unafraid, he's unabashed, and he'll fight for the American people aggressively. It's something he won't apologize for.
So obviously the whole issue of the mail-in ballots and what Democrats are saying is an effort to slow down the wheels at the post office so that fewer votes actually get where they need to go once those mail-in ballots are sent out. Here's Hillary Clinton on MSNBC today talking about her concern.
I'm really worried that there will be direct interference with the election through the manipulation of the Postal Service. I don't think there's any doubt that any sensible person should have that there's a deliberate effort to sabotage vote by mail.
So she says clearly there's a deliberate effort on the part of the president to sabotage the U.S. mail service.
Yeah, not in the slightest. The president signed into law the CARES Act, which provided a $10 billion line of credit for the post office. We offered $10 billion in negotiations, to which Nancy Pelosi didn't accept and left town, and now has manufactured a crisis. The real crisis here is this. When you have Nevada in their primary mass mail-out voting, not mail-in, mailing out to their entire voter rolls ballots, which ended up in trash cans, piled up in trash cans, and the Las Vegas Journal-Review did great reporting on this and pinned to the boards of apartment complexes. That undoubtedly opens ourselves up to fraud. We saw charges in Paterson, New Jersey. There were charges in LA County. This is a system subject to fraud, and this president will fight for the integrity of our elections.
So we've seen here in Paterson, New Jersey, they're going to redo that election of the one that you just mentioned. You know, the president has said that he believes that the only way he will lose is if this is a rigged election. Does he think that that is going to happen? It feels like both sides are preparing already for a post-November 3rd argument over who won and who lost. Do you think this thing goes on for some time?
We certainly hope that doesn't happen. The president wants an election with integrity, but when you look around the country, it's not just Nevada, it's not just New Jersey. We saw this in Pennsylvania as well, when the system, which was created and designed for absentee voting, voting for a reason, when you're unable to vote, when it is flooded with a mass influx of ballots, what we see is what happened in New York, where it took more than 6 weeks to determine the outcome of Carolyn Maloney's race, and you had about 20% of ballots rejected. We want a system that enfranchises people, that enables people to vote, and that ultimately captures the will of the American people. And that's what the president will fight for.
So there was a lot of attempt during the last week at the Democrat National Convention to show themselves as a very diverse party. That was clearly one of the thrusts of all of the videos and, a lot of the things that they put on the screen. There's a story that just came out a little while ago on Politico that claims that there's a leaked audio of President Trump speaking with black civil rights leaders at a meeting and saying that he was glad that black voter turnout in 2016 was low. He said that was great for him. Have you heard this audio? Do you think it's of concern, or is there different context that you think it should be seen in?
Yeah, so literally as I was walking out here, so probably 60 seconds before I joined you, I had someone flag that story for me. And what I was told is the broader context of this audio suggests that the president said it's a good thing that black voters realize that Hillary Clinton was not the candidate to advance their interests. In fact, it was President Trump who brought black unemployment to its lowest rate, brought extended funding, permanent funding for HBCUs, criminal justice reform. He's fought for black men and women around this country. And I believe the election will tell that story in a very palpable way when you see the number of black men and women who show up to empower this president.
Just before I let you go, and I know you work at the White House and not in the campaign, but the big night is going to be at the White House. Is there anything that you can tell us about how the tone or any part of this is going to be very different, given the virtual nature of all this, than what we've seen so far?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And I can tell you there's going to be a big difference. In the last convention, in the Democrat convention, you saw a whole lot of politicians. This convention, you're going to see a whole lot of American people. This is the president who's for the people. He's an outsider. And you're going to see the American people featured in a way that was deftly and tone-deafly absent from the Democrat National Convention.
All right. Well, I'm sure they would say they had a lot of real people in theirs, too. But we'll be covering all of it, and we look forward to it in Washington next week. Kayleigh, thank you very much.
Thank you, Martha.